Welcome back, guys. In today's episode, I'm narrating 8 true, terrifying stories about road trips through the Appalachian Mountains, where strange figures stand by the roadside, towns appear and vanish, and mazes hide more than dead ends. So make sure to hit that like and subscribe button, share this with your friends, and let me know where you're watching from. And if you've had a story that this reminded you, I'd love to hear it. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Thanks. Now let's get into it. I'm Kevin, and I work as an electrician in rural Georgia. Last fall, I hit a wall at work. Too many jobs, not enough time. I hadn't taken a real break in years, and everything just kind of caught up with me. I told my boss I needed a couple weeks, unpaid, whatever. It wasn't about the money. I just needed to be alone for a while. Off the grid. So I packed up my truck with a sleeping bag, some tools, and a cooler of snacks, and I headed out toward the Blue Ridge. The plan was loose. Just drive, camp out, reset my brain. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I pictured pulling over in some quiet clearing, making coffee on a portable burner, maybe doing some reading. Nothing fancy. I was somewhere about 30 minutes past Mortonville, this little town with a diner that had a moose head on the wall, when my GPS went weird. First, it rerouted, then it froze. Then it rerouted again. I glanced at my signal, 1 bar, then none. Just like that. The road it put me on was strange. Fresh pavement, like it had just been laid, but no paint. No lines, just a 2-lane road carved through thick woods, trees packed in on both sides like someone shoved them there with a plow. Not even a shoulder to pull off on. No other cars, no signs. It was quiet, but not in a peaceful way. After about 15 minutes, I passed what looked like a gas station. Sort of. It was a 1-story brick building, boarded up windows, and no gas pumps in sight. Across the plywood on the front, someone had spray painted the word Marvin's. I don't know why that stuck out to me. Maybe because it didn't look like a name someone would bother writing across a ruined building. I slowed down, looked at it a little too long, then kept driving. I remember thinking something like, that place doesn't even know what decade it's in. Then, 5 minutes later, my truck just died. It wasn't like the engine coughed or sputtered. 1 second I was driving, and the next, it was like someone cut the power. No dashboard lights, no clicking, just dead. I coasted as best I could off the road, which meant crunching through some leaves and landing a little crooked on the edge of a ditch. I popped the hood out of habit, hoping maybe it was something simple. Battery was good, belts were fine, fuel line looked clean. Nothing that explained what just happened. I sat in the cab for a while, just staring down the road. No one passed, not a single car. I checked my phone again, completely dead. Not low battery, just black screen, no life. The only thing I could think to do was walk back to that gas station. It took me almost 45 minutes on foot. The road felt longer walking than driving. I kept checking behind me, expecting to see headlights or even hear something, but it was just quiet, the kind of quiet where your footsteps sound way too loud. When I finally got back to Marvin's, I realized I'd misjudged it. It wasn't abandoned, not completely. There was a brand new padlock on the front door, big one. The plywood looked newer than I remembered, and across the boards were dark streaks, smears, almost like someone had tried to wipe their hands clean after handling motor oil, or something thicker. There were no lights inside, no windows to peek through. But I heard a sound, tapping, like someone lightly striking a metal pipe, over and over. I knocked, waited, knocked again, nothing. So I walked around back. That's when I found the storm door. It was low, right up against the ground like the entrance to a root cellar. No lock, just a latch. I pulled it open, and as soon as I did, the tapping stopped. I remember just standing there for a second, staring down the stairs. They led into darkness. Damp concrete walls, the kind of place that smells like old water and burnt plastic. I don't even remember making a decision to go in. I just told myself I needed a phone. That was it. Just find a landline, make a call. Wait outside. I went down. The steps creaked a little under me, and as soon as I reached the bottom, I could see a wide room. Bare bulbs hung from a few cords above, not on, but enough light filtered down from the open hatch that I could make out the space. 3 long metal tables took up most of the floor. One of them had a tarp over it, thick, black, and shiny in places. Another table held tools, not everyday stuff. Bone saws, bolt cutters, pliers. They looked old, like 1,950 swone, but there wasn't a speck of rust on them. I backed toward the stairs, started to turn. The hatch slammed shut. I sprinted up, but it was locked. Wouldn't budge. I banged on it so hard my palms went numb. That's when I heard it again, the tapping, only now it echoed up the stairwell, louder, more deliberate. I went back down. I didn't know what else to do. My eyes flicked back to the tarp. I don't know why I walked toward it. Part of me thought maybe it was tools, something to break the hatch open. I pulled it back. It was a deer, sort of. The legs had been cut off and sewn back on backward. The joints were all wrong. The stitches were thick, uneven. Its eyes were cloudy, like it had been dead a while. But I swear, its chest moved. Not big, just enough that I saw it. Then, another sound started. Not tapping. Wet. Like meat slapping against tile. In the far corner stood a man. Shirtless. Pale skin that looked almost translucent. His spine curved wrong. His head twitched sideways, like his neck couldn't support it. In one hand, he held barbed wire. Not a roll, just a single loop, dragging on the floor. It scraped against the tile as he walked. He didn't say a word, just stepped toward me, slow and steady. I grabbed a wrench from the table and bolted down a side hallway. It narrowed fast, like it wasn't meant to be a hallway at all, just an afterthought. At the end was a steel door. I kicked it, nothing. Again, still locked. The footsteps behind me dragged, each one scraping forward. I kicked a third time, nothing. Then, once more, and it gave. I slammed it shut behind me. The space on the other side was wrong. Angles that didn't make sense. Too many turns, no windows. Just fluorescent buzz from somewhere far off. I kept running. Eventually, I hit stairs. I climbed 2 at a time and found myself in the front room of Marvin's. Empty shelves, torn labels, a stool behind the counter, nothing else. The front door opened. Outside, it was pitch black. No dusk, no fading light, just gone. I didn't think. I just ran. Down the road, away from the station. I must have run a mile before slowing down, but the road kept changing. It dipped and curved in places I didn't recognize, like it was shifting behind me. After an hour or so, I saw my truck. It was parked in front of the gas station. I turned around, took off again, deeper into the woods, picked a direction, and didn't stop. Eventually, the trees thinned. The road leveled out. I saw a sign, a real, metal, highway marker. I flagged down the first set of headlights I saw. I must have looked insane, waving my arms like a maniac. The driver was a woman, maybe mid-50s. She didn't ask a single question, just cracked a water bottle and handed it to me. Kept driving. We reached a town. I don't even remember which one. I barely said a word. Next morning, I rented a car and drove home. Left my truck where it was. I was 32 when my friend Eric somehow talked me into driving through the Appalachians instead of taking the highway like a normal person. We were heading from Raleigh to Cincinnati. No real reason, no big event, just 2 guys with a few days off and no obligations. It started as a casual road trip, one of those let's just drive and see where we end up kind of things. Eric was obsessed with detours. Historical markers, old mills, buildings with vines crawling up the sides. He'd stop for anything. You couldn't even joke about a haunted house without him pulling over. Somewhere west of Roanoke, after a wrong turn and a broken gas station taco stop, He pulled out his phone and grinned like he'd just won something. "You ever hear of Ashwood Hollow?" he asked. I shook my head. He shoved his phone in my face. Some grainy photos of an overgrown archway, cartoon animals with peeling paint, and a barely readable sign that said Ashwood Park. It's supposed to be an abandoned amusement park, just left there. No security, no fences. Looks creepy as hell. We're only like an hour from it. I stared at the photos. Looked like tetanus and a raccoon orgy waiting to happen. Exactly. Let's go. He didn't even wait for me to agree. We were already turning off onto a narrow 2-lane road. Then another turn took us onto gravel, then dirt. The trees got thick fast and the sky disappeared above us. It was early evening, but the road looked like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. The GPS gave up completely just after we passed this rusted-out fire truck. No markings, just a husk. A warped wooden sign came into view a little further down. Someone had hand-painted "Welcome to Ashwood Hollow" across it, but the letters were faded and cracked, like nobody had touched it in decades. The town was basically dead. One diner, completely boarded up. A gas station with trash bags taped over the pumps. A post office that looked like someone had tried to break every window with a crowbar. We didn't see a single person. No parked cars, no animals, not even a bird. Eric stayed cheerful, of course. "This is awesome," he said, like we'd just arrived at a ski resort. He took the right fork past the diner and we started climbing a hill. No signs, no pavement markings. I actually asked if we should just turn around. And then the trees opened up and we saw it. A wide gravel clearing. Straight ahead, a faded archway that said Ashwood Park. Cartoon forest animals were nailed to the top, all of them painted with oversized eyes and red irises. Some were missing ears or limbs. The paint was chipped and warped from the sun, but somehow it made them look more alert. Like they knew we were there. The ticket booth was gutted. No windows, no one stopping us, just a silent, empty lot. And woods closing in on all sides like we'd parked in the middle of nowhere. We got out. I told Eric 10 minutes I wasn't trying to make a night of it. The pavement was cracked and half covered in moss. We stepped through where the entrance must have been, past the booth, and into the actual park. Everything was still, not just quiet, completely still. No birds, no bugs, no wind. I realized after a minute that I couldn't even hear our own footsteps unless we were kicking gravel. Off to the left was a carousel, the kind with chipped plastic horses and bent poles. The horses had missing eyes, manes that were just frayed wires. It looked like someone had tried to pull them apart and gave up halfway. Eric was already off in his own world taking photos. I left him to it and followed this narrow path toward the back of the park. That's where I saw something weird, a maze. Like a haunted house kind of thing. But it looked new. That's what threw me. The walls were white, clean, about 8 feet high, all sharp corners and no graffiti. Over the entrance, someone had spray painted in thick black letters, "Find me inside." The paint was fresh, I could smell it. Still sticky in spots. I called for Eric, no answer. Checked my phone, no signal. I stood there, staring at that entrance. I knew going in was a bad idea. I felt it deep down. But Eric might have already gone in, and if he got turned around or hurt or fell into some busted floor panel, I didn't want to be the guy who waited outside. So I stepped in. The maze was quiet. The panels didn't creak or echo. They were smooth, no markings. I stuck to a simple pattern, left turns only. I wasn't trying to solve it, just trying to move through methodically. Maybe 5 minutes in, I started hearing footsteps. Not mine, not echoes. They followed me for a while, stopped when I stopped. I turned around a couple times, nothing. The path got narrower, more turns. Then I started seeing holes in the panels, like peepholes. Each was just big enough to see through. I leaned into the first one. Nothing, just the other side of the maze. The second one, Eric's face. He was right there, inches from me. His eyes were wide open, not blinking. His mouth was open too, like he was screaming, but there was no sound. just a faint bit of fog from his breath. I bolted around the corner. Nothing there, just more wall. I started running, turned left, then right, then left again. I lost my pattern. The walls started looking different. Some had dark smudges, maybe mold. Some had scratches, not letters or shapes. Just deep, frantic-looking marks like someone had tried to claw their way out. Then I hit the mirror room. Square room, no roof, walls and floor made of mirrors. I could see the dull sky above me, but it looked off, dim. I saw my reflection, but it didn't match. I raised my arm. The mirror lagged, not like a delay, like it was thinking about it. I backed up, tried to find where I came in. No door, just mirrors on all sides. Then one reflection tilted its head, slowly, deliberately. I hadn't moved. Then it smiled. I didn't. I turned and slammed my shoulder into one corner. Nothing. Slammed again. Something cracked. A panel gave way. Behind it, just blackness. I crawled through. I landed on dirt. It was a tight crawl space. Roots above me, pipes running through the walls. The air smelled like blood and something sweet and rotting. I followed the path, crouched, one hand brushing the wall. My fingers touched footprints. Boot prints. Eric's, maybe. They led to a wooden panel. I pushed it open. I was in a small room, maybe an old maintenance closet or staff break room. Water damage on every wall. The ceiling sagged like it could cave in at any second. Eric was there, sitting in the corner, arms wrapped around his knees, facing the wall. "Eric," I said. He didn't move. I stepped closer. He whispered, "Not me." Then he turned. His eyes were way too wide, bloodshot, staring like he hadn't blinked in hours. "Did it follow you?" he asked. I pulled him up. He stood, barely. His legs were shaking. His nails were cracked and dark with dirt. He smelled like a bag of pennies left out in the sun. We crawled back through the dirt tunnel. My flashlight died halfway through. I had to run my hand along the wall to stay oriented. Eric didn't say anything except for this muttered string of numbers. 35753. We came out behind the maze. The sun was gone. I helped him to the car. He wouldn't sit down until I checked the back seat. Twice. We drove. Didn't say a word. About 10 miles out, my phone came back to life. I tried calling his sister. Eric slapped the phone out of my hand. "No recordings," he said. "Don't let it hear your voice." He hasn't spoken since. He writes, "That's it. Red ink only. Blank paper only. No lines, no blue pens, nothing else. He won't be alone in a room. Won't look in mirrors. Won't sleep unless someone else is awake nearby." I tried finding Ashwood Hollow again, took the same turnoff, same landmarks, but it wasn't there. I was 24 when this happened. Two of my closest friends and I had planned this super cheap road trip. Just 3 guys, a cooler, and a couple of tents, driving from Ohio down to the Carolinas. We decided to cut straight through the Appalachians because we figured it'd be scenic and quiet. Plus, we were broke, so no hotels. Just campsites and whatever gas station food we could live off. It was fun at first. The usual dumb stuff, bad coffee, local radio, those greasy diners with the cracked vinyl booths. We were somewhere near the West Virginia border when Jake, who's got this weird obsession with old maps, pulled one out and pointed to this dotted line running through a chunk of national forest. He was excited. Said it'd shave off a couple hours. Of course, it wasn't on Google Maps. I was driving. The road he found wasn't much, just a narrow strip of cracked asphalt. No lines, no shoulder. The trees were right up against the edge like the whole forest had just squeezed itself in close. No cell signal, but it was technically paved, so we figured why not. About 20 minutes in, I started feeling weird about it. We hadn't passed a single car. No houses, no signs of life, not even a busted mailbox or a beer can on the shoulder. And the trees, they were all too neat. Same spacing, same height, same everything. It didn't feel natural. I joked that it looked like someone copy-pasted the same tree over and over. Jake just shrugged. Said it was probably an old maintenance road. Then we saw her. She was standing on the right side of the road, back to us, wearing this long white dress that touched the ground. barefoot. Her gray hair hung straight down her back. She didn't move, didn't even twitch when we passed, just stood there like she was waiting for something. Nobody said anything for a solid 10 seconds. Then Caleb, who was in the back seat, leans forward and says, "Did she have a face?" I thought he was joking. I said, "What?" "I'm serious," he said. "Did she have a face?" We went back and forth. Jake laughed it off, said it was just some woman living out in the woods. But Caleb was pale, said she looked wrong, said her skin looked fake, like candle wax, and her arms were too long. He didn't think she was real. And then we passed her again, same side of the road, same exact spot. Same white dress, same hair, same posture. She hadn't moved an inch. I slammed the brakes. We all got out. She was gone. Just vanished. No sign of her. We walked up and down the shoulder shouting. Jake tried to play it off like it was some weird coincidence. "Maybe there are twins," he said. I gave him a look. Identical twins with matching dresses who like standing silently in the same spot on a mountain road? We got back in the car. I turned around. I didn't say it out loud, but I felt it. Whatever that road was, we weren't supposed to keep going, but the way back felt different. We didn't pass any turns, no forks, no little offshoots, just trees. And this time, the trees were mirrored, like actually mirrored. I saw this one leaning tree with a chunk missing from the bark. It was on the left. And then a few minutes later, it was on the right. Same lean, same scar. It wasn't a different tree. That's when Caleb said, "We're stuck." Jake told him to shut up and told me to keep going. Then we saw her again. This time she was standing in the middle of the road, facing us. Her arms hung way too low, past her knees. Her head was tilted to the side like someone had twisted it too far and just left it there. And her eyes? There weren't any. Just dark, hollow holes, like someone had punched them into a mannequin. I didn't stop. I swerved and floored it. Nobody talked after that. Just silence, all of us staring ahead, waiting for something, anything, to look different. Then I saw it. A house, one story. Looked like it had been rotting there for decades. No driveway, no mailbox, just dumped in the woods like someone forgot it. The roof was caved in, boards were warped and gray. It didn't look livable or real. And then the car started slowing down. I hadn't let off the gas, but the speed dropped. 30, 20, 15. I stomped the pedal. Nothing. We rolled to a stop about 20 feet from the house. I turned the key. Nothing. Just that soft clicking sound. Caleb tried his phone again. No service. Jake, always the bold one, said, "Maybe there's a landline inside, or a generator." I told him absolutely not. He went anyway, and we followed. Not because we wanted to, but because none of us could stand staying out there alone. The porch creaked under us. Inside, the house was empty. No furniture, just dust and broken boards. The smell hit us. This sharp mix of mold and rusted metal. Every room looked the same. Same layout, same peeling wallpaper. One cracked window in each. At the end of the hall, Jake opened a door. I told him not to go down. He ignored me. He took 3 steps, then vanished. Gone. Not like he tripped or slipped, just gone. Like the stairs dropped out or he got pulled straight down. No noise, no yell, just silence. Caleb bolted. I was right behind him. When we got back to the car, the engine was running, lights on, idling like we'd never left. I didn't think. I jumped in, slammed it into reverse, and got out of there. We didn't see the house again. Didn't see her either. But when we finally hit gravel and spotted a lumber truck on the shoulder, Caleb broke down crying. We didn't talk about Jake. Not in the car, not later. We filed a missing person report and said he wandered off while hiking. No one found that road. Not even the police. Caleb doesn't talk to me anymore. My name is Owen32 and I work as a freelance videographer. I mostly do freelance gigs, weddings, corporate stuff, the occasional indie short. But when I get time, I like hitting the road to film personal projects. Weird Americana, forgotten places, rural decay, stuff like that. There's something magnetic about places that feel like everyone left without turning the lights off. Last fall, I planned this 4-day solo loop through the back roads of eastern Kentucky and into southern West Virginia. No real schedule, just a route drawn on a paper map with some coffee stains on it. The idea was simple: drive, film, sleep in the car, repeat. I had a few GoPros, my DSLR, a drone, and more batteries than I could probably use in a month. Sleeping bag in the back of my SUV, a cooler packed with gas station snacks, and zero plans to see another human if I could help it. The first day went exactly how I wanted. Small towns with sun-faded billboards, empty storefronts with busted glass, those weird church signs with threatening Bible verses. I spent hours filming old barns that looked like they were folding in on themselves. I even found a cemetery behind a crumbling high school gym, just sitting there like no one had mowed it since Clinton was in office. Second day, I was deep in the sticks. No phone signal, not even a hint of Wi-Fi. I didn't mind. Honestly, I kind of liked it. Being unreachable feels rare now. Around 6:30 that evening, I passed this old gas station that looked like it had been losing a fight with gravity for the last 10 years. The awning was caved in like a truck had backed into it, and the pumps were half sunk into cracked concrete. No sign, no price numbers, just rust, weeds, and the kind of silence that makes your ears ring. I slowed down, rolled past it, thought about turning around to get a shot, but something about it made my stomach clench. Can't explain it. It wasn't fear exactly, just a deep, instinctive nope. So I kept driving. I was looking for elevation, somewhere to catch the sunset on film. After a few winding miles, I found this narrow road that climbed a ridge through thick woods. It got steep, fast, full of switchbacks and blind turns. At the top, I spotted a small dirt pull-off. There was a waist-high wooden fence, clearly not designed to stop anything bigger than a toddler, and an old historical marker leaning at an angle. Couldn't read much of it. It was mostly rust and bird crap, but I caught a few words. Skirmish, Confederate retreat, 1863. Pretty standard backwoods Civil War stuff. But the view was wild. Hills rolling into each other forever. No houses, no roads, just trees, bleeding into trees. It was too quiet up there. I know that sounds cliche, but it really was. No birds, no wind, just this strange vacuum of sound. I noticed it, but I was so tired from driving all day that I didn't care. I set up the tripod, framed a wide shot, and let it roll while the sun dipped. After maybe 30 minutes, the colors flattened out, the hills went dark, and I packed it up. Crawled into the back seat, kicked off my shoes, and zipped into the sleeping bag. No campfire, no lights. I locked all the doors, cracked a window, and stared at the roof until my eyes got heavy. And that's when I heard it. A single step, just one, like a boot crunching on dry leaves. Close to the car. I opened my eyes, held my breath, listened. Then another, slower this time, closer. My body tensed. I didn't move. Just lay there completely still, like pretending to sleep would help somehow. After a few seconds, I sat up. Quietly reached into the front seat, popped open the glove box, and grabbed the small folding knife I kept there. I'd never had to use it. Honestly, I forgot it was even in there until that moment. Then, 3 taps on the rear passenger window. Not a knock, not pounding, just 3 slow, spaced-out taps. I didn't turn around. Couldn't. My whole body was locked up. Then it happened again. Same rhythm, but now on the other side of the car. That snapped me out of it. I lunged into the driver's seat, jammed the keys into the ignition, and started the engine. Headlights burst to life, cutting a path through the trees and the pull-off. Nothing. Empty road. No movement. I slowly backed up, trying not to overcorrect and fall off the ridge. As I turned, the headlights swung across the tree line, and that's when I saw them. 3 figures. They weren't moving, just standing there, maybe 20 feet from the edge of the overlook. They looked wrong, not in a masked psycho way, more like someone trying to imitate a person but not getting the details right. Their clothes looked like torn ponchos or trash bags hanging in strips. Their shoulders slumped low, like they'd been standing that way for hours, but their heads tilted back, staring straight up into the trees. No reaction to the engine, or the lights, or me. I didn't stop to think. I dropped it into drive and floored it. The SUV jolted forward and started tearing down the mountain. No GPS, no signal, just headlights and panic. I hit the brakes too hard on one curve and almost slid off the edge, but the tires caught gravel at the last second. I kept driving like that, white-knuckling the wheel, blinking sweat out of my eyes, until I finally saw pavement again. About 15 minutes later, I found a diner just off the highway, one of those old-school places that probably hadn't changed the menu since '92. It had a flickering neon open sign that looked like it might give up any second. I pulled in, parked crooked, and sat in the car for a full minute before getting out. Inside, the waitress didn't ask questions. She poured me coffee and walked away like she'd seen guys in worse shape than me. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I kept glancing out the windows every few seconds, half expecting to see one of those figures just standing by the edge of the lot. Later that night, I checked my footage, not because I wanted to, because I had to. I needed to know if I caught anything, even by accident. There was one photo, a wide shot from earlier, before the knocks. Just trees, hills, clean horizon. Nothing obvious at first, but in the far left corner of the frame, partly hidden by a tree trunk, there was something. It was taller than the others. Its arms were too long, way too long. They dangled down past the knees. The head had two sharp points like antlers, but bent forward, like they'd been broken. It wasn't one of the three I saw later. It was already there, watching. I deleted the photo immediately. Thinking about it still gives me chills. I left Lexington at 7 in the morning. Car was washed, playlist loaded, full tank of gas. That kind of smug, early trip optimism where you feel like you've already won the day just for beating traffic. I was headed to Boone to see my sister, Nicole. She just moved into this tiny apartment she wouldn't stop texting me pictures of. "You'll love the view. I have an actual closet." There's a weird smell in the hallway, but it's charming, I swear. After about the 20th message, I caved. People always say the drive through the Blue Ridge is incredible. A once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, especially this time of year. But I wasn't doing it for the scenery. I just wanted to get there before dark, grab some takeout with her, crash on the couch, and forget about work for a couple days. That was the whole plan. Simple. The first stretch of the drive was fine. Just me, the road, a couple of true crime podcasts, and a gas station burrito that was already making me regret every life choice. I passed through towns I swear no one's ever heard of, like Meadow Lick and Furnace Creek, places with a population of 3 goats and a vending machine. Then I started climbing into the hills. You know the kind? Tight curves, no guardrails, trees so close they almost scrape the side mirrors. Somewhere around mile marker 214, things shifted. I rounded this slow bend and saw a guy on the side of the road. Not walking, not thumbing a ride, just standing. He was tall and rail-thin, wearing a gray windbreaker zipped all the way up in black jeans, pale skin. No bag, no water bottle, just standing there, with his arms loose at his sides like he was waiting for something or someone. As I passed, he turned his head, slowly, deliberately. His eyes were way too wide, like he didn't know how to blink. He didn't wave, didn't flinch, just tracked me like a camera on a swivel. I know it sounds dumb, but my arms broke out in goosebumps. It wasn't even anything he did, just him. The way he looked at me, like I was a car he'd been expecting. I shook it off, told myself I was being dramatic. Maybe he'd broken down. Maybe he was a trail hiker. Maybe his blink timing just sucked. 15 minutes later, somewhere around marker 229, I saw him again. Same guy, same clothes, same posture, same eyes, still just standing. This time I actually said, "What the hell?" out loud. I slowed down a bit, craned my neck. He didn't move. There was no way he could have gotten there on foot that fast. No side roads, no shortcuts. But I wasn't about to stop and play detective. I kept going. 10 miles later, marker 239, he was back. I pulled over that time. Gravel shoulder, hazards on. I grabbed my phone, got out of the car and walked back maybe 20 feet. Nobody, just trees and silence. No rustling, no insects, just that heavy nothingness that makes your ears feel like they're ringing. I walked back faster than I'd meant to. Got in, locked the doors, and gunned it. I remember thinking, okay, weird, but maybe not dangerous. Around 3:45, I stopped at this rundown gas station called Johnson's Market. Looked like it had been abandoned for a few years before someone remembered it existed. One of those places with a single flickering light, old pumps with paper signs taped over the credit card readers, and a soda cooler that made an angry humming noise every time it kicked on. Inside was this dude behind the counter. Maybe late 20s, buzz cut, sitting hunched over a phone with a spider-webbed screen. He didn't even look up when I came in. I grabbed a Red Bull and some trail mix. When I stepped to the counter, he glanced at me, then stopped. Squinted. "You headed east?" he asked. I blinked. Yeah. Boone. He hesitated, then asked, "You seen him yet?" I just stared at him. "Seen who?" He leaned a little to look out the dusty window toward the road. Tall guy, gray jacket, doesn't blink. I didn't say anything. He looked back at me. "If you see him more than once, don't stop after dark. That's when he follows." He said it like he was giving directions to a restaurant, then just rang me up like that was the end of the conversation. Back on the road, I didn't see anyone for a long stretch. No gray jacket guy, no cars, just trees pressing in and road signs ticking by like a slow countdown. Then, around 5:10, I passed marker 254. There he was, closer to the white line this time. His eyes locked onto mine as I passed, like he'd been waiting for me specifically. I gripped the wheel tighter. Didn't even think about stopping. At 5:40, I called my sister again, told her traffic was slower than I thought. She offered to wait up and heat dinner. I told her not to bother. Didn't mention the guy. Sun started dipping behind the ridges around 6:10, shadows everywhere, trees throwing stripes across the pavement. I came up on marker 267. He was back, but this time, he moved. He raised one arm and pointed straight at me. It was so subtle, just a single movement, but it felt like a gut punch. I floored it. The road got sharper, the turns meaner. I kept one hand tight on the wheel and the other near the horn, like it could actually protect me. Then, around 6:30, I saw this red Jeep pulled off on the shoulder. Hazards blinking. Guy standing next to it, waving both arms like he needed help. I slowed down, cracked the window maybe an inch. "You okay?" He limped toward me, clutching his left arm. His shirt sleeve was soaked in blood. "I hit something," he said. "It wasn't a deer. It was standing. It looked at me." He pointed into the trees. I followed his finger. About 20 feet in, barely visible through the fading light, was the man in the windbreaker. Still watching, I didn't think. Just rolled up the window and floored it. Didn't ask more questions. Didn't care if the guy was bleeding. I just drove. By 7:00, my fuel light came on. I hadn't even realized how far I'd gone since the last stop. I hadn't been looking at anything but the road ahead and the rearview mirror. At 7:12, I pulled into a scenic overlook labeled Fox Ridge Point, killed the engine, let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. No service. Not even a bar. I got out to stretch, shake it off, pretend like the world was still normal. Then I heard a footstep behind me. I turned, nothing, then another one. Not loud, just the crunch of leaves under weight. Slow, measured. I backed toward the car, fumbled with the door handle. 3 figures stepped out of the trees, all of them in gray jackets, all of them with that same wide-eyed, frozen expression. I jumped in the car, slammed the door, locked everything. Turned the key. No lights, no engine. Just the kind of silence that feels like it's waiting. I scrambled for the tire iron under the passenger seat, My hand was shaking so bad I dropped it once. Then a face appeared in the window. His face, inches away, fogging the glass. Then came the knocking. Not hard, just a tap, like someone trying not to wake a sleeping baby. Then another knock on the opposite side. Then one at the windshield. They were surrounding the car, tapping, in rhythm, like they were waiting for something. I ducked into the back seat, clutching the tire iron like it would matter. Then, nothing. The knocking stopped. No sound. No movement. I waited 10 minutes before trying the key again. The engine started instantly, like nothing had ever been wrong. I drove the rest of the way without stopping. Didn't check the mirrors, didn't speak, didn't even blink much. My sister opened the door and asked why I looked like I hadn't slept in a week. I said I was tired. Next morning, I went out to my car to grab my charger. There was a handprint on the windshield, not his, smaller. Dirt smeared, like a child's. I've never taken that road again, and I won't. I was 27 when I decided I needed to disappear for a while. Not in a dramatic, runaway kind of way, I just couldn't be in that apartment anymore. My roommates had evolved passive-aggressive behavior into an entire lifestyle. You ever live with people who slam cabinets like punctuation? Like every dish they wash is some kind of message? Yeah, that. So I packed a few essentials into my SUV, old but reliable, grabbed the emergency cash I'd stashed over a few freelance gigs, loaded up a playlist built from years of insomnia scrolling, and took off. My only plan was to head north from Georgia, stay off highways, and take every weird little road I could find between there and West Virginia. I figured the Appalachians were due for a proper look. Not the tourist version. I wanted to see the real thing. I didn't book motels. I just slept in the back of the SUV with a blanket, a hoodie, and the moonroof cracked. I had a cooler of gas station snacks, water jugs, a backup battery pack, a pocket knife, and absolutely zero interest in talking to anyone. By day 4, I was deep into North Carolina, somewhere beyond Murphy, headed toward what felt like the edge of the map. GPS offered a shortcut. Ravens Loop Road. Looped around back to the main route. Said it'd save me about 40 minutes. Looked like it ran through forest. The kind with no pull-offs and trees so thick you can't see 5 feet in. Seemed quiet. I took it. The gravel started within the first few minutes. Tires crunching slowly, steady rhythm. Trees leaned in from both sides, like the whole road had been carved with reluctance. The signal dropped, which didn't surprise me. I'd already downloaded offline maps and had 3 ways to charge my phone. I wasn't worried. Then I saw her. She was standing on the left side of the road, just behind one of those old split rail fences. Barefoot, thin, pale blue dress. Not something you wear outside in mid-October. No shoes, no phone, just standing there. She wasn't crying, wasn't asking for help. She was just watching me. I slowed the car and rolled the window down halfway. "Hey, you okay?" No answer. She didn't even flinch, just stared, like she wasn't surprised to see me, like she was expecting me. Her face didn't shift at all. No smile, no confusion, nothing. I sat there for maybe 5 seconds. Then I drove on. About 2 miles down the road, I passed a rusted-out sedan rammed between 2 trees. The hood was crushed, like it had hit something hard. No tape, no signs, no warning cones. Looked like it had been shoved off the road and left for the forest to reclaim. I tried to play it cool. Told myself it was probably old. Wrecks like that happen out here all the time. But 5 miles later, there she was again. Same girl, same dress, still barefoot. This time she was on the right side of the road, just past a broken mile marker. She was standing with her feet half buried in leaves. I didn't slow down this time. I locked the doors. My hands were tight on the wheel and I didn't check the mirror. I didn't want to see if she was still staring. 10 minutes later, I passed a sign I didn't remember from any map. Caldon Hollow, 3 miles. Didn't ring a bell. But my gas light had been on for the last 15 minutes and I'd already ignored it twice. The needle was tapping the bottom, so I kept going. Caldon Hollow looked like a place someone forgot to shut down properly. 1 gas station, a diner, A couple of buildings that looked like they used to be stores. No cars, no people. But the lights at the gas station were on, flickering like a dying bug zapper. I pulled in. Hump screen was blank. No card reader, just a taped-up sign that said, "Pay inside." I didn't love the idea of going in, but walking 30 miles with a gas can wasn't on my to-do list either. Inside, it smelled like dust and some kind of meat product that should have been thrown out a week ago. The guy behind the counter looked straight out of a gas station horror movie. Late 50s, maybe older, unshaven, wearing a hat with no logo and a t-shirt that used to be white. I handed him a 20. "Can you put whatever this gets me in pump 1? I just need to get back on I-64. He didn't say a word, just took the bill, walked out, and started pumping, like I wasn't there. While I waited, I looked across the road. The diner was fogged up, like the windows hadn't been wiped in weeks. Someone had drawn something into the condensation, looked like a symbol, or maybe just a spiral. And there she was, outside the diner this time. Same dress, same stare, closer now. She was just standing there, 10 feet from the entrance, like she'd started walking toward it and forgot why. I pointed toward her. "That your kid?" The guy didn't even turn. Ain't no kids in Caldone Hollow. No inflection, no sarcasm, like he was repeating something he'd said 100 times. I didn't say another word. I took my change, got back in the SUV, and drove out fast. As the road twisted through hills, the trees got taller and thicker. Sunlight barely made it through the branches, and even though it was barely late afternoon, it looked like dusk. And every few minutes, I saw her again, sometimes standing just off the road, sometimes behind a tree, sometimes way up on a hill, watching, always facing me, always the same distance away. Eventually, I passed another sign, Hollow Crest Inn, 1 mile ahead. I hadn't planned to stop, but I was shaking. I couldn't take another silent stare from the trees. I needed a door to lock. The motel looked like it had been dragged out of a fire and left to dry. Faded green trim, a flickering sign. I parked. Office door creaked open. No one inside. Then a bell rang. A woman came out. She looked tired. Hair pulled back, yellow cardigan with a hole in the sleeve. Didn't ask my name, didn't check ID, just handed me a key marked 3. I asked if there was Wi-Fi. She just said, "No need for that up here." Room 3 was a mess. Mold under the window, carpet that squished in one corner, a bedspread with a perfectly round burn hole. I didn't care. I locked the door, bolted the chain, shoved a chair under the knob, sat on the edge of the bed, and didn't move. Around midnight, the noise started. First the creak, then the tapping. Not on the door, on the window. 3 taps, deliberate. I killed the lamp, moved slowly to the side, pulled back the curtain just enough to see she was there, based against the glass. Skin gray and stretched, veins visible, eyes wide like she'd been underwater too long. Her mouth opened, no sound, just wide and empty. I ran. Didn't grab my shoes, just the keys, climbed out the bathroom window, ripped open my knee on the concrete. I got in the SUV, peeled out of the lot without looking back. In the mirror, I saw her, standing dead center in the road, head tilted, watching, like she was trying to memorize the plates. I didn't stop until Charleston. My phone blew up with missed calls, weather alerts, messages. I searched for Caldone Hollow, for Hollow Crest Inn. Nothing came up. Not even a ghost town entry, but I still have the scratch on my knee and the gas receipt still in my glove box. I haven't touched a back road since. I was 24, working part-time at an auto shop in Joliet, Illinois. Spent my evenings delivering pizza to keep up with rent, insurance, and whatever was left of my social life. Most nights, I'd crash on the couch, still in my work pants. So when Micah texted me one night out of nowhere, "Appalachian road trip, you in?" I thought he'd sent it to the wrong person. We hadn't talked in over a year. Last I knew, he was couch surfing around Pennsylvania and trying to turn handmade knives into a full-time gig. Kind of guy who always had 5 half plans and no address. I stared at the message for a bit, almost swiped it away. But then he called. No small talk, just, "I got gas?" a cooler full of beer, beef jerky, and the best playlist you've never heard. We leave Friday. He had that tone, like it was already locked in. I don't know why I said yes. I had shifts lined up and bills waiting. But I called off, threw some clothes, a socket wrench set, and a blanket into my old hiking pack, and drove 6 hours to meet him in a Walmart parking lot just outside Bridgeport. One rule from the start: we sleep in the car. I wasn't trying to be dramatic. I just don't trust tents or random cabins. I've seen too many movies. Bad stuff happens when you leave the car. At least inside you've got 4 doors and a horn. We took my '97 Honda Civic, which, honestly, was more rust than car by that point. I'd replaced the muffler with duct tape and a prayer. By the time we hit the West Virginia border, the AC had tapped out and the radio was just static and weird AM gospel stations. But the roads were something else. Tight, winding back roads, lined with endless trees. Thick green all around, like the forest was slowly closing in. We didn't talk much. Micah drove the first leg. I tried to navigate, but our phones lost signal somewhere in Nicholas County. That's when we saw the detour. A hand-painted sign nailed to a crooked post. Road washed out. Use alt route. Micah didn't hesitate. He just nodded and said, "Shortcut. Locals use it all the time." I didn't love the idea, but he was already turning. We hit gravel and the trees started leaning in tighter. After 20 minutes, I started counting the abandoned cars. We passed 3 different makes, all rusted out, some with moss growing inside the windows. One had a teddy bear melted into the dash. Looked like they'd been there for years. Eventually, the gravel gave way to packed dirt. It felt like we were slipping into some place not meant to be traveled. Then we saw it. A lone gas station, just sitting in a clearing like someone dropped it there from a different decade. No other buildings in sight. Just that one squat building. An old truck out front, half-eaten by vines, and a flickering sign over the door that read, "Ice" in broken neon. Micah got out without a word. Got a piss. I didn't even have time to say it was boarded up before he was already around back. I waited a few seconds. Engine still running, but the quiet got to me. Something about that place felt wrong. I stepped out and followed. The back door was cracked open. I gave it a push. Inside was dust and silence. It looked like someone had walked out in the middle of his shift decades ago, and no one ever came back. Shelves still had candy bars with labels I didn't recognize. Coolers smashed in. Register lights swinging gently even though the air was completely still. Micah was at the far end, finishing up at what might have once been a bathroom. He looked over and said, "Creepy, but I've taken worse leaks." That's when we heard it. A clicking sound. Mechanical, slow, repetitive. Click, click, click. Then silence. Micah stiffened. What the hell was that? The sound came from under the floor, like something had powered up, then shut off. Not loud, just wrong. We didn't say another word. We walked out fast, climbed back in the Civic, and I reversed all the way down that dirt track until we hit a spot wide enough to turn around. No music this time, no jokes. Just the crunch of gravel and the occasional swipe of tree branches across the roof. And then we passed the gas station again. I slammed the brakes. Micah leaned forward. That's not possible. He was right. We hadn't turned around. We'd gone straight the whole time. He looked out the back window. Wait, wasn't that busted sign on the right before? Now it was on the left, he mumbled. Are we looping? I didn't answer. I was too busy staring at the passenger side mirror. There was something standing in the trees, just outside the edge of the clearing. Still, not moving, just watching. I floored it. The car skidded a little before grabbing traction. We didn't stop until we hit a new clearing, bigger this time. No signs, no landmarks, just a wide open space, like the forest had coughed it up. Micah got out to relieve himself again, muttering something about his bladder being cursed. Then he waved me over. There's a school bus in the middle of the clearing. It didn't belong there. No wheels, half buried in weeds, windows busted, but on the side, barely visible through grime and rust, it read, Hardin Elementary. Micah stared at it like it had punched him. That school closed in 1984, he said slowly. My uncle told me about this bus, said it vanished. 5 kids and the driver, no trace. As we stood there, something shifted inside the bus. A metal bang, then a knock, a pause, then another. I said, "Get in the car." We sprinted back, slammed the doors shut, and locked them. The knocking stopped. I threw the car in reverse and peeled out, driving in whatever direction the wheels would turn. 10 minutes later, we hit a fork. 2 paths, no signs. Micah pointed left. We took it. Eventually, the gravel came back. Then a new sign appeared, carved into a slab of wood nailed to a post. Return or remain. Micah leaned forward, eyes squinting. That's not a warning. I nodded. It's a choice. The road ended in another clearing. This one had 6 cabins, all small, identical, lined up in a perfect circle. No lights, no smoke, no life. I turned the car around, ready to bail, but there was no road behind us anymore, just trees. Micah whispered, "We're not supposed to be here." And then, slowly, one by one, every cabin door creaked open. No footsteps, no shadows, just doors opening like they'd been waiting. Then came the sounds, soft creaks, like weight shifting on old wood from inside the cabins. Micah said, "They're watching us." I drove straight into the woods, no path, just mud, roots, and panic. The Civic bottomed out over rocks. Branches clawed at the windshield. I didn't stop. Finally, we broke through the trees and slammed onto pavement. Headlights lit up a green sign, "Welcome to Weston." We were back. Michael let out a shaky laugh. I just held the wheel and stared ahead. Then we noticed the back window. There was a crack running down the middle. On the seat behind us sat a folded strip of paper. Micah picked it up with 2 fingers. One side said, "You chose return." The other side, "Some don't." We didn't say another word the rest of the night. Parked at a Walmart back near civilization. Slept in the car under flickering parking lot lights. I locked the doors twice. We never went near the mountains again. I'm a freelance photographer. I specialize in capturing landscapes and forgotten places, spots with history that's been left behind. Over the years, I've driven down countless back roads. People often ask if I get scared during these solo trips. Honestly, nothing had ever happened to make me uneasy until this one experience. It was mid-September when I set out into the Appalachians. I had a list of abandoned gas stations and shuttered motels I wanted to photograph. I was particularly interested in a stretch through West Virginia near the Kentucky border. Sparse cell coverage, numerous forgotten towns. It was perfect for my project. I'd been driving all day. Around 5:30, I pulled into a gas station about 20 miles past the last town marked on my map. The place looked like it hadn't been cleaned since the 90s. The air smelled like old oil and rotting plywood. I parked beside the only working pump and headed inside to pay. No card reader, of course. The guy behind the counter looked up when I walked in. Late 50s, maybe older, wearing a dirty gray hoodie with the sleeves pushed up. He didn't smile or say a word when I asked for 20 on pump 1, just hit a button and turned away. As I walked back out, I realized the place was completely surrounded by forest. No street signs, no houses, no other cars. Just trees swallowing the road behind me and ahead. I remember thinking, if my car breaks down out here, I'm screwed. After filling up, I headed north. My plan was to sleep in the back of my SUV. I'd done it dozens of times. Fold the seats down, use the emergency sunshade for privacy, set my alarm for sunrise. It's not glamorous, but it works. There was a rest stop marked on the paper map I kept tucked under my seat. I drove another 20 minutes looking for it. When I finally found it, it was fenced off. Orange plastic mesh, a collapsing sawhorse, and a water-stained sign that said no entry. The place looked like it hadn't been operational in years. I thought about turning back. Then I saw a sign just up ahead, Braddock Ridge, 2 miles. It was hand-painted, nailed into a wooden post. Not official looking at all, But I figured, maybe there's a church or a school there, somewhere I can park without drawing attention. The road narrowed and started to climb. No signs, no houses. Just the same trees on both sides, getting taller and denser the farther I went. About a mile in, the road split at a fork. No markings, just a sharp Y into two identical paths. I don't know why, but I took the left. After another few minutes, the trees broke open into what had once been a small town, or at least a cluster of buildings. A church with a slanted bell tower. A post office the size of a garden shed. One pickup truck parked under a canopy of vines. No lights anywhere, no movement. It looked abandoned. I pulled over in front of the church. There was just enough room to park off the road without hitting weeds. I turned off the engine and listened. No wind, no bugs, dead quiet. I locked the doors and crawled into the back, threw a blanket over myself. Camera bag under my legs, one boot still on in case I had to get out fast. I must have fallen asleep sometime before 9. I didn't check the clock, but I woke up hard. No dream, no reason, just snapped awake. My head hit the window, and I sat there, heart racing. Then I heard a scrape. A soft, slow sound, like something dragging against the driver's side door. I didn't move. I lay perfectly still, listening. It happened again. A long, deliberate scrape. This time I sat up slowly and peeked over the top of the seat. Nothing outside, just the gravel road and the shell of the general store across the street. The moon was high enough to give me some visibility. I didn't see anyone. Then something shifted behind the pickup truck. Just a flicker of movement. Someone ducking down, trying to stay hidden. I blinked hard, thinking maybe I'd imagined it. I stayed low and reached into the front seat for my keys. I hadn't locked the doors. I always lock them. I don't know why I didn't that night. Another scrape. This time on the passenger side, right behind my head. I hit the lock button and gripped my keys in one hand and my camera in the other. My breath was loud in the cabin. I slid forward and angled myself to look out the passenger window. That's when I saw him. He was standing maybe 6 feet away, just beyond the hood, shirtless, barefoot, jeans soaked from the knees down. He wasn't looking at me. He was staring straight at the ground, not moving. I didn't recognize his face. He looked like he hadn't slept in days. Hair plastered to his head. His arms hung limp at his sides. Then he took a step closer. I started the car. Headlights flared. That's when I saw the others. 3 people standing in a line across the road, right in my path. One had a metal rod. Another held what looked like a knotted length of rope. They didn't flinch when the light hit them. I dropped the gear into reverse, backed up hard, and spun the wheel. The engine roared louder than I expected. The man who had been near the passenger door sprinted after me, barefoot on pavement. I heard him slap the side of the SUV as I turned. I didn't stop until I reached the fork again. This time, the right side looked passable, so I took it. I didn't look back. Didn't care about directions. I'd passed a deer carcass spread across the road. Its body was bloated, the legs bent at unnatural angles. Flies covered the eyes. I drove around it. Eventually I saw another town sign, Miller's Fork. This one looked real. It was lit by an overhead lamp, cracked but working. There was a gas station just past the sign, fluorescent lights flickering above each pump. A woman behind the counter looked up as I walked in. "You all right?" she said. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't answer. I asked if there was a motel nearby. She pointed me 2 blocks down. I slept that night with the lights on and a chair against the door. The next morning, I drove back to find the fork. I had to know. I traced every turn, every mile, but the split wasn't there. The road was whole, no branch, no turnoff, just thick trees on both sides, untouched. I stood there for a long time, engine idling, staring into the brush. There was no road. Not even a gap. When I got back to the gas station in Miller's Fork, I asked the clerk if she'd ever heard of Braddock Ridge. She squinted. "Nope," she said. "Ain't no place around here by that name." She went back to unpacking cigarette cartons. Didn't look at me again,
'But I stopped sleeping in the car after that.
My name's Andy, and I was 22 when I got the idea to drive the whole Appalachian Scenic Highway on my own. I just wrapped up college a semester early, no cap, no ceremony, just a PDF diploma and a few months of free time before starting a job I wasn't exactly thrilled about. Everyone I knew was either cramming for finals or too broke to split gas money, so I figured I'd go solo. I told myself it was about freedom. But honestly, I think I just wanted to disappear for a bit. No real plan, just a general direction. Drive, sleep, explore, repeat. I kept everything in the back of my Subaru tent. Sleeping mat, some gear I barely knew how to use, and a bunch of snacks I pretended were meals. I figured if I stayed off the main highways and stuck to back roads, I'd see the kind of weird, forgotten stuff you don't get on Google Maps. The first couple days were great. I set up camp in a state park in North Carolina. Just me, a dozen mosquitoes, and the sound of something sniffing around my tent at 3 a.m. The next night, I crashed in the back of the car outside a closed campground near Roanoke. It was cold, but not unbearable. The quiet was weird at first, but I got used to it fast. There were stretches where I wouldn't see another person for hours, just trees, winding roads, and those green mile markers ticking past like a countdown. On the third day, somewhere deep in southern West Virginia, I saw a sign that made me stop. It was this rusted piece of metal nailed to a tree at an awkward angle. The paint had chipped in places, but someone had spray painted over it, "Dunlow Overlook, for me." Big white letters, no arrows, no info, just that. I almost kept going. It looked sketchy, and I didn't feel like getting my tire slashed by a meth head with a shotgun. But the name stuck in my brain like gum on a shoe. Dunlow. It didn't sound real. It sounded like something you'd make up in a story. I sat there for maybe a full minute, engine idling, thumb tapping the steering wheel. Then I turned off the main road. The pavement got rough quick. It felt like no one had driven this road in years. Trees started pressing in tighter, and the road dipped into shadow even though it was still early afternoon. There were two houses along the way, both looking like something out of a documentary you watch to feel better about your own life. One had a Confederate flag that had faded to a weird shade of pink. The other had its windows boarded from the inside. No cars, no mailboxes. I passed a rusting-out school bus that was filled, no joke, with tires, just stacked up to the windows like someone was planning to open a tire museum. Then there was a deer carcass that looked half dragged off the road, like someone started pulling it and got bored halfway through. Right before the asphalt gave up and turned into gravel, I spotted an old wooden building with a tin roof that looked like it might cave in if a bird landed on it. The sign hanging over the porch said Old Dunlow General in hand-painted letters, white on dark wood. The porch steps sagged in the middle like a spine with a slipped disc. I pulled over anyway, part curiosity, part habit. I figured I'd grab a water and maybe ask if the overlook was worth the detour. Inside, it smelled like mildew and paper. Not rotten, exactly, just old. The lights flickered with that tired hum fluorescent bulbs make when they're half dead. A fridge buzzed in the back, louder than it should have been, filled with dusty cans of soda and a few water jugs floating in what looked like mostly melted ice. At the counter stood this tall guy in a faded denim shirt. He had pale blue eyes that looked a little too bright for his face. He didn't say anything at first, just stared at me like he was trying to place me from somewhere. Then, flatly, "You need fuel?" I hadn't even said hello yet. I just shook my head. "No, just water." He didn't move, just raised his arm and pointed toward the fridge. I walked over, grabbed a jug, came back and placed a 10 on the counter. He didn't touch it. Didn't even look down, he just kept staring. I stood there for a second, waiting for something. Then I turned and walked out. That's when I noticed the second guy, sitting in a rocking chair to the right of the door. I had somehow completely missed him going in. Old man, tobacco-stained beard, teeth mostly gone. He was chewing slow and loud, eyes locked on me. never said a word, just followed me with his gaze all the way back to the car. Another mile or so down the road, I hit a wooden gate. No signs, no chains, just closed across the road like a shrug. I thought about turning back, but I was already committed. I got out, unhooked the gate, and drove through. From there, the road got even narrower. Trees leaned in so close I started to worry about my paint job. Ditches on either side, barely any space to pull over. I crawled along for about 10 minutes until it opened into a wide gravel clearing. In the middle was a broken-down fire tower, half collapsed, steps eaten through with rot. I guessed this was Dunlow Overlook. Except there was no view, just trees in every direction. I was too tired to care. I parked near the tower, locked the doors, rolled out my mat in the back, and passed out. Sometime around midnight, I woke up to the sound of gravel crunching. Slow, steady, footsteps. I didn't move, didn't even breathe, just stared at the ceiling of the car and listened. Then I saw a light, a flashlight sweeping through the trees, left, right, closer. I ducked down, tried to make myself invisible. The light turned off. I stayed still for what felt like hours. I think I blacked out from the adrenaline at some point, but I wasn't really asleep, more like blinking in and out of panic. When the sun came up, I climbed out to pee and spotted a boot print near the car. Deep, not mine, facing the driver's door. I got in, turned the key, nothing. No click, no hum, just dead. I checked the battery, looked fine, tried again, still dead. I started to panic, told myself I just needed to find help. I left a note in the window with my name and phone number, grabbed my bag, and started walking back toward the general store. 2 hours later, I reached the gate. The chain was gone. I stepped over the posts and kept going. A few minutes down, I noticed fresh tire tracks, wide ones, pressed over mine. Someone had come in after me. When I reached the store, everything had changed. The porch was empty. The front door hung open. Inside was pitch dark. No fridge noise, no flickering lights. I called out. Nothing. The 10 I'd left was still on the counter. Behind it, a raccoon lay sprawled out on its side. Dead, bloated, flies thick enough to hum. I turned and sprinted. No more pacing myself, just get out. That's when I heard it, someone calling my name. At first it was soft, faint, Andy, then again, louder, Andy. Same voice, same tone, flat. Like a recording, like a kid reading from a school play script. I didn't look back, I just ran. Maybe a mile out, I saw something hanging from a tree branch. Bright red. It was my shirt, folded, tied with red twine. I hadn't taken it off. It was in my car. I ran faster. Tripped over a root, slammed into the ground. Got up, kept running. When I got back to the clearing, my car was gone. Not towed, not moved. Gone. Gravel was smooth. No marks, no debris, just empty space. I walked around in circles, trying not to scream. Then I spotted something behind the tower. A trail. Almost invisible, overgrown. I followed it. It opened into a second clearing. This one wasn't natural. 6 old vehicles sat in a ring, like they'd been placed there on purpose. Rusted, stripped, windows fogged over, no plates. In the middle was a structure made of rebar and rotting wood. Like a teepee, inside were bones, stacks of them, human, animal, skulls, ribs, long bones, just piled up. I backed away, hands shaking. That's when I saw him, the man from the store, standing at the tree line, holding a walkie-talkie. He pressed the button, got him. I ran, branches tore at my face. I didn't stop, didn't look back, just ran until I hit the road. A highway worker saw me stumble out of the woods, dropped his shovel and ran over. Holy hell, what happened to you? I couldn't speak, just shook my head. He drove me to a ranger station. They called the sheriff. I told them everything. They searched, brought in dogs, drones, volunteers, nothing. No tower, no clearing, no store. Locals had never heard of Dunlow. The coordinates I gave led to thick forest. A week later, they found my Subaru in a grocery store parking lot in southern Ohio. Spotless. Keys on the seat.